Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Fox2, and in today's video I am going to be running through what are the current best buys with the massive discounts we have in War Thunder Mobile right now. Everything is 50% off, or at least every single premium is 50% off in this game, due to the fact that it is currently World Shopping Day. So without further ado, let's get into what we can buy on the market right now. In the store, we've got a whole bunch of very good planes, so let's start with the aircraft. The Tandem MAI it's a pretty good plane. It's not wow, I wouldn't really recommend it. It's very cheap. My best buys, in my opinion, currently for the game, in the plane section, I would highly recommend the ITP M1, and the reason being is it's a very maneuverable fighter. It's got reasonable maneuverability, it's very fast, it's got 676 km/h top speed forwards, and then it's got an absolutely amazing 37mm gun. It's only got one, unfortunately, with only 50 rounds. But then as backup, it's got two 20mm guns with 400 rounds, excuse me. Now, that is really good. In fact, 37 is massively above average. And 20mm also slaps pretty hard. It's going on the slightly big side. It's not huge, but for a plane, it's leaning towards the bigger side, so I'd highly recommend the ITP M1. The P-47 D-27, it's not amazing, I don't like it too much. It's only got 8 12mm guns, which really aren't amazing. Anything that's 12mm usually struggles a lot, so I wouldn't really recommend that one. Then in the German line, I would really recommend the Bf-109Z. In fact, I'm going to buy that right now myself. And I know this is a really funky looking plane, obviously being the double plane, but it's actually really amazing. Now here's the thing, it's not very maneuverable. It's extremely fast because of the double engine, having a top speed of 712 km/h top speed forwards. Well, only forwards, this is not a tank, it has no reverse speed. Why did I even say that? But it also is very heavily armed with 4 30mm Mark 108 cannons with 260 rounds each. That is really powerful. This is going to pack a very heavy punch, and its main role is going to be countering bombers a lot, because it's got a very good climb rate as well, and very good top speed. So you're going to be able to climb to those high altitudes where you find the bombers, and use those really heavy duty 30mm guns to rip them to shreds. It's kind of like, if you guys remember my video review on the Bf-109 G14, it's kind of like that, except for a bit bigger, a lot faster, and a lot less maneuverable. So think of a Bf-109 G14 with less maneuverability, more speed, and larger size. The guns are very similar, because this also carries, not 30mm. This carries two 20mm guns, plus, one 20mm gun, excuse me, I don't know why I'm messing up so much today, plus two 30mm cannons that you can also add onto each wing if we go to the arsenal here. So think about that, except for with even heavier guns. Having 4 30mm guns. That's insane. It's gonna pack such a heavy punch, this plane. I would highly recommend it. In fact, like I said, let me just buy it right away now myself, because I've been waiting a very long time to put this in my inventory as well. Then we have the DO335A0. Now, this is a very interesting plane as well. It's also insanely fast, having that double engine, 775 km/h top speed forwards. It also packs a very heavy punch with two 20mm Mark 151 cannons and one 30mm cannon with only 70 rounds though, and 400 rounds on the 20mm. So it also carries quite heavy armaments. Very good plane. Although it doesn't have excellent maneuverability, you are going to more want to use this against bombers as well. Like I said, do not get into dogfights with either of these two planes, because you will absolutely fail miserably in a dogfight scenario, because of the fact that they have very little maneuverability and their turn rate is quite horrendous. So you're going to be wanting to be sitting at the high altitudes, going for the bombers mainly, and if you do pick on a fighter, you're going to go for a boom and zoom tactic. Make sure he doesn't have any friends accompanying him that will protect him. And you're also going to want to make sure he doesn't see you coming. Otherwise, he will ultimately win you, because of the fact that he has the better maneuverability. I'm probably going to buy this plane as well. In fact, I'm buying a bunch. I'm probably going to buy all 3 of those planes that are recommended so far. And then in the American line, let's see, what have we got here? The XP50, it's a really goofy looking plane. I personally don't like the look of it very much, because it has those... I know it's got 20mm cannons, two 20mm cannons, but it's got very little ammo, and it's got it's more heavily on the 12.7mm cannons, which I'm really not a fan of. And it really you can't equip it with any new armaments, so I'm not a big fan of this plane. It's not got insane speed for the double engine. It's got those engines are huge, and it doesn't really give it massive speed, only 680. And also, it's not going to be very maneuverable because of double engines. So this plane I really don't think is good in any particular aspect, just my personal opinion. Then we have the XP55, another very goofy looking plane. Now, this is obviously got the rear engine, which is very, very strange, but it's not that fast, 628 kilometers an hour. It has got two 20mm cannons, which carry 400 rounds each, which is much nicer than the other one. So this is actually a little bit nicer, on the nicer side, because it carries more ammo on the 20mm cannons. Excuse me, I am so messing up my speech today. It's also quite maneuverable. I think its handling is a little bit funny because of the rear engine. I haven't played it yet, obviously, because I don't own it. But it is an option. I'm not going to, per se, recommend it. I would more recommend the other planes I've recommended. But it's definitely an option, especially if you're into your American planes. And then we have the YP-38, which kind of resembles the F-18, if I'm not mistaken. The Lightning. Where is the Lightning? Oh, we don't have a Lightning in the tree? I was so sure we had a Lightning. Oh yeah, the P-38. The P-38, that's what I was thinking of. It kind of resembles the P-38. I think it is actually one of the factory models, the original blueprint models of the P-38 before it was actually entered into production. It's got 137mm cannon with only 15 rounds, which is not a lot. So you're going to need to be very accurate on that. And then as backup, it's only got very small 12.7mm and 7.62mm. So I really don't recommend this plane that much. I think this plane will be quite a lot of fun, but it's not good. It's fun, but it's not good. So, and also it's only fun if you're a pro player. So if you're not a pro at this game, I would highly not recommend you buy this, because like I said, those guns really aren't that good. Although at tier 2, to be fair on it, at tier 2 having a 37mm gun, even if it only has got 15 rounds, is pretty impressive as well, to be fair on the plane as well. But, like I said, you have to be a pro to play it, because you need to really conserve your ammo and be very accurate. Then with tanks, now moving on to tanks, what have we got here? Now, I have already, from a previous discount, I believe it was last year's Black Friday, bought the T-54E1 platoon, and I would very much recommend this platoon. It's a whole lot of fun. I enjoy it very, very much. Although you do need to be a little bit above average of a player, because it's not exactly the easiest tank. The T-32E1 is pretty good for a newer player because it's got very decent armor, so it holds out quite nice. But the T-54E1 is not so good on the armor. If someone shoots you in the lower glacis plate, they can very easily ammo rack you and destroy you one shot. But what does this tank have as an advantage? It's got a 105mm gun, which has decent penetration at 267mm, which is obviously not impressive compared to some of the tanks like the Leopards at this tier, because it's tier 7, but it's still pretty good. It's got an autoloader, which is very interesting. So it's got a reload time of only 5 seconds, but then once you run out of the magazine slash drum, you will have to wait quite a bit of time before it reloads that, and you get the 5-second interclip again. So you have to sort of shoot off your whole drum, memorize how many rounds you've got. I believe it's 9 rounds in the drum before it runs out. Its mobility is also pretty good, 43, not amazing, but it's more armored than some of the tanks like the Leopards at this tier. We've got the M50, which is not a particularly good tank, but it's an absolute ball to play. I really love this vehicle. It is so much fun, especially if you are a memer who loves all of these meme tanks in the game. And then we have this, which has an insane rate of fire, is a very good SPAA, but nothing else. It doesn't do well against tanks, only against air. Now, what else have we got? You can also buy the Tiger 2. It's a very solid platoon as well. I like it very much. I think the camo on this Tiger is absolutely beautiful. The Tiger has very good armor. In fact, one of the best armored tanks at this tier, although you do have to keep in mind when you're up tiered against things like Leopards, they will penetrate you very well from the front. In fact, they'll be able to often one-shot you frontally through the turret cheeks if they penetrate right through the back to your ammo rack, so you're going to have to be very, very careful of that. The 88mm high-velocity cannon packs quite a punch. It's got very good penetration, and the speed is actually not too bad for such a heavy vehicle at 42 km/h top speed forwards. Then we have the Panther G, which is very similar to the Tiger except for less armor and a smaller gun that doesn't pack as much of a punch, although the reload is faster by 0.1 seconds, so it's pretty much identical. It's like a worse Tiger. Think of it as a worse Tiger with a bit more speed, only having 4 km/h top speed forwards more. So it's really similar to Tiger. It's pretty much a nerfed down Tiger if you want to think of the Panther G that way. Then we have the Ferdinand, which is a pretty interesting TD. It's got an 88mm cannon, 30 km/h top speed forwards and in reverse, which is very interesting. It's got pretty decent armor frontally, although it can be a bit of a trick to aim if you don't know how to handle TDs well, because you have to aim with your steering, because the gun is obviously fixed. And then we have the Kugel Blitz, which is not an amazing SPAA in my opinion. It's alright, but I don't really think it's particularly spectacular, especially at this tier, because as you can clearly see, it's mounted, the SPAA part is mounted on the hull of a Panzer IV, which is not insane. Then we have the IS-2 Revenge. This is another very good platoon you can buy as well. The IS-2 Revenge has a 120mm cannon, which packs a massive punch. This is pretty much a guaranteed one shot every time you fire at an enemy. This gun really, really slaps very hard. I would highly recommend you get your hands on the IS-2 Revenge just because of that gun, although it does have a slow reload of 20 seconds, which is very long. The speed is quite decent at 42 km/h top speed, and it's got decent armor, although you have to be careful in those little side points of the frontal armor where you can be penetrated. Then we've got the T-44-122, which also has a 122mm cannon. Now, this is a very good vehicle as well. The T-44 is a pretty decent medium as it is, but then having the additional 122mm cannon modification mounted to it is amazing, with 60 km/h top speed forwards as well, although the reload is painfully slow at 23.3 seconds, so you're going to have to wait a very long time for the reload. It's also got decent armor for medium, which is pretty solid. Then lastly, we have the T-34-100, which is not insane at all, because it is a T-34 at this tier with a 100mm cannon, so this vehicle kind of sucks. I'm not a big fan of it. And then we have the pride of this platoon, in my opinion, the ZSU-57-2. I love this vehicle so much, because it has an insane 57mm cannon for an SPAA. If you run the armor-piercing rounds, I believe it is APDS, if I'm not mistaken, or it could be just AP, you get about 150mm of penetration on this vehicle, so you can play, this is the best anti-ground SPAA, so you don't have to play this as an anti-air, you can just go for any tanks. You can penetrate Tigers through the side with this, so it's absolutely insane. Then what else have we got? I don't believe we have any other vehicles. There's the STA-3. It's sort of a fun platoon, although I wouldn't really recommend it if you're a newer player, because it's really not insanely good. I mean, it's good, but it's not insane. I enjoy it just for fun, occasionally more casual fun, not trying to get any high scores, especially the Type 60 is quite a funny vehicle to play. And the Hori prototype is an interesting vehicle as well. Then we have the KV-2020, which has solid armor, although the gun is a little bit weak, but it is one of the most armored vehicles at this tier. The armor holds out extremely well. The M4A2, which is a Sherman, I'm not a big fan, although it's got a decent cannon for a Sherman. I found it handled quite well. The Su-85M is a pretty fun vehicle. It's obviously a tank destroyer. It's got an 85mm gun. I've enjoyed it quite a lot too. And the Fong T-34, which is an SPAA. It's not a bad SPAA, pretty average in my opinion. There's the French platoon, the M4A4 SA-50, which is also interesting. I wouldn't really recommend it for any of these two. We've got the Sherman Jumbo and we've got the M4A4. The M36B2 is pretty solid. It's got those additional machine guns, heavy-duty machine guns mounted on top that make it pretty good against air as well, air defense. And we've got the AMX-13 DCA, which has a 40mm cannon. So it's another one of those SPAAs that really slap. If you want an SPAA that slaps very hard and is good against tanks, I would highly recommend that. Then what else have we got? We've got the Cobra King. Now, the Cobra King is not wow. I don't really like the Sherman, although the M18 Black Cat is quite a fun vehicle, but you really don't need that one. You can just buy the M4A1, which has an M18 GMC here for just silver if you want to experience the M18, and it's also a tier lower, so it makes it easier to play. We've got the Calliope. I would highly recommend you get your hands on this platoon. I reviewed it before. It is absolutely OP. This entire platoon is really OP. There's not a single tank in this platoon that is not OP. So I would highly recommend it, especially the Calliope, and then T1E1 are insane. Then we have the KV2. Obviously, everybody knows about the KV2. If you want to get your hands on this for a discount, it's going to be very cheap, so I definitely recommend you try that. The Dickomax is a lot of fun, although it takes a pro player. If you want to have some fun, because it's quite a unique experience, I would recommend it, but not if you're not a good player. What else have we got? The Excelsior. Nothing really recommendable here. I wouldn't really recommend that, even though I've bought it. I just bought it because I had some spare gold ones. And that is all the vehicles I would recommend you buy with this current discount. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of today's video and what vehicles you guys plan to buy. And if you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.